Hey guys, here's another episode of Around the Table GTA. We're at episode 13. We're in June now. Wow, time's just passing by. But as time passes by, there's just more and more that we learn. So this episode is going to be about internet friends and connections, right? We're in a generation, and it's been long enough where, especially like when I was growing up, my parents were like, don't be on the internet too much. The internet was much slower. At times you could only be on the internet while the phone wasn't able to work as well. So that was dial up. So I'm kind of aging myself with this episode, but I think a majority of the people who listen to this podcast already know how old I am and stuff. So either way, it's a big thing, and it gets bigger and bigger every generation as well, especially with how fast the internet's been. The internet's a completely different place than when I started. There's certain keywords that I would use, but I'm on YouTube, so that with the internet that it stays the same. And if you're old enough, or if you're getting the hint of what I'm talking about, you already know what it is, right? Especially with super old memes. This episode was inspired by one of my internet friends. I was looking for a logo for the podcast. I keep using stock images of Tails, and I think some people might find it weird, and it is kind of weird now that I think about it. But it's my favorite character. I don't really care. But as I get more advanced, I guess, in the podcast game, I want to have a symbol that represents that, right? So I was looking for someone to do a logo for me. I was gonna go to my natural designer, but I'm like, you know what, let me just make a post about it and see who comes by. And I'm a big person who is about supporting people you already know, right? So there was a lot of people who posted their friends or whatever, but a friend of mine, Steven, shout out to Steven, shout out to coolpics.biz. He's a person that I met on Tumblr like forever ago. Now that I look at the year that it is, it kind of is like, wow. There was a time where I was on that website for a majority of my free time. That's when I wasn't working as much. I think I had like a bout of depression, and I ended up on that site, and everything was just resonated with me off of that site. Great place at times, bad place at times as well. Huge echo chamber, but the internet's become a big echo changer. But anyways, shout out to Steven, shout out to Cool Biz. He's like, you know what? I'll do a logo for you. I have to hit him up again, right? But it was really nice that even though we haven't talked for years, right? Like realistically, he's an internet friend that I don't talk to that often, especially since a lot of us aren't on Tumblr anymore, but I have him on other social media. And if I am scrolling or creeping through social media, I kind of know what he's doing. So there's that. And then I've seen some of his projects, and he's a very creative person. So I was like, yeah, if he can do this. I gave him kind of what I was looking for. I don't have anything solid, but I had a base. Right, so he was just like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Just shout out my website, coolpics.biz, on your podcast. So I'm probably gonna talk about it every couple of podcasts just to show my appreciation, right? And that's the thing. You get connections with people, and internet people are real people. And some people have weird theories that nothing's real on the internet, but that's another story. But anyways, they're real people, and going back to Tumblr, a lot of us kind of shared similar experiences, right? So that's what kind of brought us together, whether it was memes, whether it was lifestyle, whether it was maybe hating our parents or the situation that we were in, or the images and posts that we shared. It brought us all closer together. I remember the Tiny Chat Squad. Shout out to the Tiny Chat Squad. Oh man, like it just brings a lot of memories, and it kind of makes me sad that there's a lot of those people that I haven't heard from in a long time. It's either that they disappeared on the internet or they're not on social media as much. There was fights and everything, and there's bigger groups and smaller groups and people that you resonated with more than others. And that's the thing about the internet. It's similar to real life at times, and it parallels real life in the sense where we find groups and really agree with, or we do agree with. We're always closer to some people than other people, right? And that's a thing where older generations, if they haven't adopted to the internet, if they haven't kind of tried to communicate with other people on the internet, they never really understood. The time that we're in now, they understand more with the inventions of stuff like WhatsApp and FaceTime and stuff like that. They're able to talk to people that they haven't talked to in a very long time, right? One of my first couple of internet friends, which is kind of crazy that I talked to some of them, was like when I was younger, there was MSN Messenger, and I just put my stuff that I liked, right? So you'd put your interest and you have your little profile. So I clicked the tag and I just tried to find random people online who had similar interests, right? And, when you're a kid, a lot of people tell you don't do that. There's strangers on the internet. There's creepy people. I won't use the words, but you guys know what I'm talking about. There's people who are pretending to not be your age and stuff, right? So this just throws me back into another age of the internet where, you just add random people. Oh, yeah, this is my name, and I also like this, and you'd be talking to someone, and that's when webcams are expensive. But at the same time, I think it's mainly because I was a lot younger, right? But at the same time, the quality of a webcam for the price was ridiculous, right? It's just like when you see the dinosaur phones from back in the day, and you're like, wait, that was the same price as an iPhone or whatever. That's crazy, right? And that's how it was. So, you'd have to just believe people when they said they were a guy or they were a girl or they were from someplace, right? It's funny enough, I remember one of my internet girlfriends, and like that was back in the day, I was a kid, and it was these two chicks from London, like me and my other friend. We were talking to these girls, and they were claiming to be models, and they took a picture of a magazine and they scanned it and then they emailed it to us, and they were like, yeah, that's us. Right? And when you're that young on the internet, you're like, oh wow, that probably is them, and why would they lie? So, it's just a different time, and it's crazy where you form these connections because we were so far from each other, but we were still very close to each other, if that makes sense, because it makes sense to your guys' generation or this generation itself, because you spend the time, whether it's the post, whether it's talking, whether it's camming, you're creating a bond with someone, right? And whether they're next door, whether they're like 5,000 miles away, that person's real, and you're talking with that person, and you can develop like genuine feelings. The crazy thing about it is, with what's been going on in the world, more people are starting to understand that with remote work and making calls online and not being able to work at work but working from home. You do these things where you're connecting with these people, and it's people that you work with, right? Or people you don't work with anymore because you're working at another place on another side of the world, because it's possible now, because people have finally gotten out of their heads that you have to physically be somewhere at certain jobs where things could get done, right? Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the old internet. And like the old internet, I'm a big discussion person. Recently, I've had people that I enjoy talking to more at work, right? It's part of my job to talk with people and instruct people at work, but I don't spend my free time talking to anybody at work on work time, right? Like, what I mean by that is, like, if I'm on break time is for me. Don't talk to me. Right? And that's not because I don't want to be social. I just don't want to talk about work. Like, maybe 95% of the people at work talk about work on their break. I don't want to talk about work. I'm on a break from work. Don't talk to me. Right? But anyways, I've had people to talk with where it's similar to talking to people that I like talking to in real life, right? And the topics are not workplace related, so it's great. It's very stimulating, and I love it. But back to the old internet. Old internet was more forum like, right? I think I've talked about it before. Stuff like T.Wire, at least in my area, Vibe. People talked about their opinions. People posted on forums, whether it's anonymous or not. People made their profiles for themselves. Like, we're in a generation now that don't know what MySpace is or MySpace was, to the point where people are saying, wow, we should have the ability to play music that we like on Twitter. Right? And that's something that's happened on the internet so many years ago, where it's just like, some people who are online, it's just like, wait, you mean like this website? And then someone's like, what's that? And it ages you dramatically. It's like like the Titanic meme, where at the end of the movie, the lady is like, oh, it's been this many years. Right? It's crazy. And something that I've been lucky to deal with is that a lot of my internet people, like my internet friends that I've met in real life, they are the exact same person as their online persona, right? I remember back in the Tumblr days where people were, right, and like, Tumblr, some people talk so dirty, or they talk so big in that. And some people had horror stories from talking with the people, because when they met the person in real life, it was all cap, right? If you don't know what cap is, they're just pretending they were acting as if they were this, and in reality, they were just probably lame. Their their internet ego, was completely blown out of the water. Like, there's a thing called Tumblr famous, right? Where just like, he had so much influence, right? It's like having a ton of followers on Instagram or Twitter, or having a verified account to an extent, but it wasn't verified, right? But everybody knew who those people were, right? And sometimes when you meet people, just kind of like they tell you not to meet your heroes at times. They're not what they seem to be, right? Or they portray themselves as, right? They're shaping their own reality online. Luckily for me, I've met a lot of people in person, and I think everybody that I've met in person is the same as they are online, right? I remember, wow, like 10 years ago, we had a meetup for a website called Vibe, right? And I got to meet some of the people that I used to argue with online. We are all kind of near each other. We're all like from different cities, but we all met up at one mall in the city on New Year's. I think I might still have some pictures online with it, which is crazy. I don't talk to all of them anymore. I talk to one still, which is still pretty crazy. We went out for food not last month, but 2 months ago, and we still catch up and talk about old times and just all the random stuff. Like, I've known this guy for years now. It's like been a while, right? But like, our crew was, we're I wouldn't want to say that we're toxic online, but that website, a lot of people argued, and it's just, it was something else. But everybody who came was pretty much the same person, except for one chick. She got exposed later, and that's a story that I can't really talk in the podcast. Maybe if I start different rated version of the podcast, that's where all the tea will be, right? But that person definitely wasn't the person that they claimed to be, and there was a thing on the forum where a lot of people was like, "Oh, I know this person, and they're not really like that. They're lying." And when you're online and you think you know people, right? You're gonna defend your friends, right? And when the reality kicks in, you're just kind of like, "Wow, that person's actually really like this. I can't believe that. I've talked with this person for hours," right? It's the similar heartbreak where you find out your friend's lying to you, or you're being used for whatever reason, and it was just kind of like a shock to the community, right? That this person was actually this, or these rumors was like this, right? And there was a couple of like very strong trolls, and like this was back in the day where everyone used their face. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people use their face on these kind of forums and stuff, right? So when that person showed up and you seen that person, you're like, yeah, that person's definitely real, and that person's going to come and cause trouble, because that's what trolls do. They kind of stir the pot and everything, and it's like, oh well, this is a rumor, let's see if it's true, or let's feed the flames to this fire, right? Either way, with friends and connections, it's good to keep up with people. It's good to see what other people are doing, especially if you're trying to get something done, right? Not all friendships are the same, right? Like, I'll just give an example. My mom's the type of person who calls her mom every single day. Every single day. If it's possible, she'll call every single day. And my mom's old, right? And I'm the type of person, I'm not like that. So my mom tries to do that with me, and I'm like, listen, I cannot do that. I'm not going to call you every day, whether I'm living at home, whether I'm not living at home, maybe once a week. If I see you every day, especially if I see you every day, I don't need to call you. I'm okay, right? I don't know. I think my sixth sense is very strong, right? So when someone's in danger, or when someone that I'm close to is feeling a little bit off, something always draws me to talk with them, right? And getting back to my point, there's certain friends that you have where you don't have to talk to them all the time, and you still kind of have that connection, right? Even with Steven, right? We had a connection, but I don't think it was that strong, right? But the fact that even though I was reaching out and he was able to respond and even like do me this big favor, it kind of made me, I guess, overthink the bond that we had, right? Because sometimes you don't know the effect that you have on others until there's a situation, right? It's like when someone passes, or someone moves, or even like when you're in a breakup, right? You realize how much that person matters to you, or the kind of impact that person had, but now they're gone. Now they're moving. Now they don't want to talk to you anymore. It can be heartbreaking, right? I could tell some other stories, but I think that's enough of stories for now. So just remember, internet friends are real people. You make those real connections, and the same thing with your regular friends, or your in-person friends, or your IRL friends, right? You have to make sure you talk with people, right? Everyone has an equally as complex life, or even more complex life as you, right? We're all on a different journey, and we come together crossing paths, right? So you might be having a hard time, your friends might be having a hard time, they might be having a great time, right? I recently talked to a friend, and he's having a great time. Yes, he disappeared last year. At the end of the year, he kind of disappeared, and I caught up with him very briefly, and he was like, yeah, I was at a very low point in my life when you messaged me. I just couldn't talk with you. And now they're on top of the world, right? That was 6 months, not 6 months, 6 to 8 months ago, right? So, don't give up. Keep pushing. do what you need to do. And this is episode 13, Around the Table GTA. More content soon, more episodes soon. I think I'm going to do a series next, right? So tune into that. More content, 100% sure, coming to you soon. I'm going to follow up to see how the logo's going. Who knows when it's going to drop in the episodes. Right now, it's still stock pictures, but, if you're liking the content, if you're liking everything, if you're listening to this on YouTube or SoundCloud, wherever you're listening to, if you could comment, it'll help with the algorithm. More people will find this. Thanks for tuning in, and catch you on the next episode. Thanks.